Hello everyone, my name is Dalia and I am the Education and Community Outreach Advocate with Monarch Services. Today we are going to learn about building a healthy relationship and what a healthy relationship looks like and what it doesn't look like. So please stick around to find out the signs of an abusive relationship and the signs of a healthy relationship. And if you can see here in the bottom right corner, we have a 1-888-900-4232 number. That is Monarch's 24-hour crisis line. Please feel free to call it at any time, at any day. In the case that you're dealing with something, you're going through a situation, you want to talk to someone about something that's going on with you or with a family member, please do not hesitate to call. So to begin with, why is it important to talk about this, or why is it important to even watch this video? Well, 1 in 3 young people, teenagers here in the USA have been victims of either physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal abuse from their partner, their dating partner, meaning their boyfriend or their girlfriend. Usually girls and young women between the ages of 16 and 24 are the ones that experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence, which that triples the national average. That is alarming. And only 33% of teens who were ever reported to be in a violent relationship have ever told anyone about the abuse they went through. 81% of parents believe that teen dating violence is not an issue or admit they don't know if it's an issue, which means that more than half of parents out there aren't sure if their child or their teen could be in a teen dating violence relationship, which is why it's important to be informed about these things. And among female victims of intimate partner violence, 94% of those were between the ages 16 to 19, and 70% of those were 20 to 24 years old. And they were victimized by either their current partner, current boyfriend, or former partner. And lastly, violent behavior typically begins between the ages of 12 through 18. So this is why it's extremely important for our young teens and our youth to learn about these things, because it can be prevented. It just takes learning and ways to replace our behaviors with more healthier ones. So with all of this being said, in order to have a healthy relationship, people define a relationship in different ways. But in order for it to be healthy, you need a few key ingredients. So what are those few key ingredients? Let's find out. First of all, communication. And when it comes to communication, there's listening and there's hearing. So when you're listening to someone, you know, you're looking at them, you're paying attention. And when you're hearing someone, you just kind of hear words coming out of their mouth, but you're not really taking it in. For example, we have here Marge telling Homer, you're not listening, you're only hearing what you want to hear. And Homer says, thanks, I'd love an omelet right about now. So this shows, you know, that yes, he sees her mouth moving, he sees that she's talking, but he's not really picking up what she's putting down. It's coming in through here and going out through here and there. Whereas in listening, you're actually listening, taking in what the person is saying, looking at them, and analyzing what the person is saying. So there is challenges in communicating, obviously. So let's talk about those challenges. And here we have SpongeBob saying, last time I checked, communication goes both ways, which clearly this is highly true. So first we have lack of respect, we have loss of interest, miscommunication that creates frustration, not understandable, and winging the conversation. Loss of interest, let's start there. Loss of interest is pretty obvious when you're having a conversation with someone. You know the person's not looking at you, they're kind of just saying to everything you're saying. So you know they're not actually paying attention. Miscommunication that creates frustration, this one's a big one, both ways. If you're saying something and the person's not understanding, yes, they're gonna get frustrated because they're understanding something else. And then the other person can get frustrated because you're not understanding what they're trying to say. So that's why it's important that when somebody's telling you something, especially when it's a difficult conversation, you repeat it back to them to make sure that you understood what they meant. Not understandable is when, you go on and on and on without getting to the point. That one's important too. Make sure you're making your point clear. Winging the conversation. This means you just go for it. Sometimes that works, but not all the time, especially when you're trying to resolve a problem or an issue. You have to really think about what you're going to say and make sure it's not going to hurt the other person's feelings, but also making sure that you're able to make your point without disrespecting the person. So, what are healthy ways to communicate? You prepare your thoughts, you use clear sentences, you use I statements, you're assertive but respectful at the same time. You make it a dialogue, which means you let the other person talk as well, and you prepare the person ahead of time, and you find a support person for before and after. This is extremely huge. Make sure you always tell someone that you trust, hey, I'm about to, let's say it's breaking up with someone. You make sure you run it through someone and say, hey, does this sound rude? Like, does this sound mean? And also have that person there for after so you can debrief about what happened. Using I statements is important as well because you need to be able to take accountability when there's an issue. Instead of saying, well, you didn't call me back last night, saying, well, I also didn't reach out to you, but this is why I didn't do it. Making sure that you're taking accountability for your part. Using clear sentence, making sure you get to your point. Make it a dialogue again, let the person talk. Let them, reflect back. And preparing the person ahead of time, this can go both ways, but it's often a good idea to let the person know, hey, I want to talk to you about this situation. I would suggest not leaving them hanging and just saying, hey, we need to talk, and then ending it there. That's probably going to cause some anxiety. But, let them know, hey, I want to talk about what happened at the theater, or what happened at the park, or what happened at this football game, or whatever the case may be. So the person knows what you want to talk about. You just don't leave them hanging like, hey, we need to talk. Like, no, that's not cool. So when we don't communicate in person, how do we do it? What do we do? Well, of course, we know we do it through our awesome friend technology, whether it's a cell phone, social media, whatever it is, we use technology. So as we know, there's a lot of social media outlets. There's Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter. Those are the ones I could think about right now that are super commonly used with our youth, including myself. I use these outlets. So it's important to recognize the dangers of starting a relationship with a stranger online. That is extremely important because you can't fully know who the other person on the other side is. So you have to be aware that there is a lot of safety concerns around that. Then we have education around real life relationships versus pornography. This is very important as well. What you see in pornography is not a real life relationship, especially when it comes to sexual activity. The things that are displayed in pornography is not what a person is wanting in a relationship. And it's not good to get advice or tips from pornography. So knowing that is highly important. Dangers of engaging in the exchange of nude pictures, highly important, you guys, ladies and gentlemen. Please do not send out nudes of yourself. That is at some point considered child pornography as well, regardless if you're both minors or not minors. Then it wouldn't be child pornography, but it'd be distribution of pornography. So please, as a teenager, be careful when you send out pictures. And if you feel like you want to send it to your partner, or that's something you want to do, please be safe about it. Don't show your face. Don't show any area in your house that can be recognized. Be smart about doing these things. But I highly discourage anyone from exchanging in nude pictures because things can go extremely wrong. A lot of times we see cases where, a young lady sends a nude picture to her boyfriend, they break up, then he's threatening to share her picture with everyone. When I was in high school, there was a young lady that, unfortunately she did share her nude, and next thing you know, the whole school got it, including administration. And not only is that embarrassing, but imagine the hurt that she went through, and the criticism, and just the violation of her privacy. Um, that's why it's extremely important to think twice before you engage in the exchange of nude pictures. And someone who loves you is not gonna, make you send them a picture. They have to respect you. Recognize the dangers of participating in chat rooms. I'm not sure if chat rooms are still popular. Let me know down below in the comments if they are or not. But chat rooms can also be quite risky because, again, you don't know who exactly you're talking to. A lot of times chat rooms, at least from what I recall when I was younger, you don't have a picture, you have a made up name, things like that. So it's very important to not give out personal information like where you live, how many siblings you have, where your parents work, where you go to school, things like that. It's just very important to think about what you're sharing to others, especially if you don't know them. I'm not saying technology bad. I'm not saying social media is bad. It's a way that we socialize, but you have to be safe about it over everything. So next up, we are switching shifts a little bit, and we are going to be talking about, as I mentioned, the nudes and not having to send them, but also giving people permission, consent. So affirmative consent. No means no, and yes means yes. Consent is 100% reversible, which means just because you said yes yesterday doesn't mean it means yes the whole week. It doesn't mean that because somebody wanted to have sexual intercourse with you Friday night, it doesn't mean that you have the right to ask for it again and again and again. So even if you're in the middle of the act and you no longer want to do it, you can say, hey, never mind, no. And the other person should respect that. And on the other side, if you're in the middle of an act and your partner tells you, never mind, I don't want to do this, you have to respect that and know that consent needs to be given throughout the whole experience. Beware of physical cues. Please, please beware of physical cues. You can tell when somebody's uncomfortable with their body language. If they're no longer maybe participating, they're just kind of, like backing away, that's your sign to be like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Is this okay? Please be always aware of physical cues. It's freely given, which means you can't force someone. If you force someone, that's rape. Not only also forcing, but guilting them into doing it or making them feel bad. If your boyfriend or girlfriend or partner, tells you, if you love me, you would do this, then your partner doesn't love you. And that is not consent, because they are in a sense threatening you or pushing you towards make a decision that you wouldn't freely give. So that's very important to keep in mind as well. Silence or no response means no. If somebody doesn't respond to you, if somebody stays quiet when you ask them, hey, can I touch you like this, and they stay quiet, that's a no. Don't take it as a, well, she didn't say no or he didn't say no. It's a no. If you don't hear yes or see or yeah or it's a no. Maybe also means no. Maybe does not mean yes, because if it was a yes, they would have said yes. And what's highly important to remember, you guys, a person who is drunk or high cannot give consent under any circumstance. If you are engaging in a possible sex act or any type of act with somebody who's high or drunk, just stop. Don't continue with it, because not only is this not giving consent, but it's also illegal and it's also rape. So please just save it for another day. Even if they're drunk and they're saying, yes, I want it, they're drunk. And by knowing they're drunk, that's simply your cue to be like, hey, you know what? Never mind. Please, please be smart about this. And again, under the law, a minor cannot give consent at all, regardless if you wanted to, regardless if you're both minors, regardless of anything, just under the law, a minor can't give consent. That's the law. Of course, there's different, penal codes and things like that, but just under the law, a minor cannot give consent. And it's okay to change your mind. Even if sex or any other activity has already started, you can change your mind. And also, for the other person, it's okay for someone to change their mind. Even if you already started, they have every right to change their mind. So, in order to be safe about a lot of things when it comes to relationships is boundaries, knowing your boundaries and setting them and communicating them. So, boundaries are basically guidelines, rules, or limits that somebody creates to help establish what they like and they don't like. And what's important, again, about boundaries, like I just said, is what feels comfortable for you versus what feels comfortable for your partner. With your partner, you should be able to talk about these things. If you can't have a conversation around boundaries with your partner, then maybe you should reevaluate that relationship, because there should be mutual respect between both of you when it comes to boundaries. And it's important to know not only what your boundaries are, but what your partner's boundaries are, and to respect them. And if your boundaries don't, intertwine, or they don't match each other, then you're either going to decide to stay with that person and work around their boundaries and not cross their boundaries, or that's simply not going to work and you're going to end things. But never make someone go over their boundaries or drop their boundaries for you. Never. Because everybody has their own boundaries and they have them for many reasons. And as a partner, you need to be able to respect that. And knowing how far you are willing to engage when it comes to sexual activity is important. It's okay to not want to engage in sexual activity. You don't have to. Being in a relationship does not mean you have to have sex with someone. Being someone's girlfriend, someone's boyfriend, being someone's partner does not mean you have to have sex with them. And if that's something you're not into, that's perfectly fine. Your partner should not judge you for that. And the other way around, if your partner does not feel comfortable having sex with you, do not push them. There will come the time when they feel ready, but don't push someone to engage in sexual activities with you. So when boundaries are crossed, or when you put your boundaries down, certain things change because you're no longer having your boundaries, and that could be the beginning of a unhealthy relationship. At some point, it could also be the beginning of an abusive relationship, because if they're already pushing you to get rid of your boundaries or cross your boundaries, that's already unhealthy. So once they are able to cross those boundaries, now it's turned into an abusive relationship. And here are a few warning signs. They constantly check your cell phone, your social media, etc. They read your DMs. They log into your Snap, your Twitter. They're accusing you of cheating. They isolate you from your friends and family, meaning that they constantly, evade you from hanging out with your friends. There's mood swings towards you. They at some points tell you what you can and can't do. Repeatedly pressure someone to have sex. That's extremely big, and we just spoke about when that boundary's crossed. You're in an abusive relationship, and it's gonna take time and effort to be able to not only realize this, but be able to reach some help. And it's totally okay to get help as you need it. That's nothing wrong with reaching out for help. Extremely jealous or insecure, they're constantly belittling you or putting you down, and they're hurting you physically, emotionally, mentally. Those are all warning signs that you are in an abusive relationship. And again, it takes time to realize these things, especially if you're young and you feel like you're in love and there's reasons for everything that happens. But this is why this video is so important, for you watching this video, and you start thinking about your relationship. And if any of these things have happened in your relationship, Monarch is always here to hear you out and have you talk about these things. Excuse me. So safety planning is super important. especially when you figure out that you are in an abusive relationship, or it's borderline unhealthy, getting to abusive. You need to be able to safety plan when it comes to that, but also when it comes to meeting new people, as we talked, meeting strangers online and things like that. So safety planning is very important. So number one is to learn to identify emotions and how to communicate them. That's yourself internally, to know how you communicate things to your partner, not only to your partner, but to other relationships like family relationships, friendships, things like that. You have the right to drive separately on dates. This can be, for example, when you meet someone online and you're going to meet up with them for the first time. They don't have to come and pick you up. They don't have to come and know where you live. You have every right to get there separately. Always advise others of who you are hanging out with. This doesn't mean you have to let the whole world know. It just means, let at least someone that you trust know where you're going to be at. If you're gonna meet, your boyfriend at a lonely beach, for example, or if you're meeting someone for the first time, even if it's at a public place, make sure you let someone know, hey, I'm gonna be, at the theater at this time, and then we're gonna go have dinner, just in case. Always let someone know where you're going, not because you don't trust the person or anything like that, but just it's safety planning. Create a buddy system. This is important, especially for those who walk from school to home or vice versa, or you stay after school late and you walk home late. It's always just better to walk with someone. That could be a buddy system. You have the right to leave any dating situation. Though this is here in the safety planning, and it's your right to leave any dating situation, regardless if it's been 1 week, 3 days, 5 years, 10 years, if you're married. But yes, it's hard, but that's what Monarch is here for, to help you explore all those different options for yourself. And of course, ask for help. Asking for help is the first step to helping yourself heal and helping yourself explore options for yourself. So please do not feel any shame in asking for help, or even calling to ask a question. You don't even have to ask for help. You can just ask questions. Please do so. And what if you're a friend, right? And you have a friend who is in a situation, or you kind of know that something's going on, or you're out at a party and your friend is, let's say, drunk, and you kind of don't know how to help, and you see a guy who's been approaching your friend all night, for example. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to use an example of a male with a female. You have bystanders intervention. So when you intervene, you follow the 3Ds. Direct, delegate, and distract. Direct means you straight up go and be like, hey, we're leaving, and you take your friend, or hey, my friend's drunk, and I don't appreciate you buying her more drinks. We're gonna leave now. Bye now. You're being direct. Delegate means maybe you don't feel comfortable enough to go to that person, but somebody else that would. So you go with that person and you're like, hey, like so-and-so super drunk, and I'm not sure how to get her out of the situation. Like, can you help me? And then that person will go do so. So you delegated, you found someone to be able to do the direct work. And distract, I would say this one's super calm, super easy, and it just depends on the environment you're in. So let's say you're at a party, house party. I know high schoolers, young teens do a lot of house parties, and your friend is in this situation. Let's say you casually pass by and you drop your drink on your friend, and you're like, oops, we gotta go clean up, and you take your friend. There you go. That's just ways that you can, if you see something, you can do something about it. But what if you truly do have a friend who is in a teen dating relationship that's violent or that's abusive? How do you help your friend or your cousin, your neighbor, your bestie? You let them know it's not their fault. Always, no matter what the situation is, let the person know it's not their fault. Offer support, which means you listen and you don't judge. You don't do victim blaming questions like, well, what did you do to piss him off? You do not ask those questions. And you give them resources. Monarch could be one of them. You help them safety plan. This can look very different depending on the situation. It could simply mean block him off your phone, let a safe adult know, go to like the school counselor or call Monarch services, anything like that. Don't minimize the abuse. So don't make it seem like, oh, it was just a slap, or oh, he just really cares about you, that's why he's controlling. No, an abusive person does not control someone because they care about them. So don't minimize the abuse. Don't make excuses for the person causing harm, which goes hand in hand, with the other one. You know, don't use words like, well, it's because he gets mad easily. You already know. Or, well, why were you talking to so-and-so if you know he was going to get mad? Like, those things are not okay to tell a friend, a cousin, a sister, your mom, your aunt, anybody who's in an abusive relationship. It's not okay to tell them those things. And we are humans, and sometimes those thoughts do go through our head. So that's why it's extremely important that if we feel like we can't help someone, we give them a resource that could help them. And you give them options. You offer options. You don't give opinions. Super important. It's our human instinct to be like, well, this is what I would do, especially when we're talking to our bestie, our friends, our cousins, our sisters, brothers, family members. But it's very important to not do that, because that's not how you help someone. You don't help someone by telling them, well, this is what I would do. You help someone by telling them, hey, well, there's this, and this available. Know that I'm going to be here with you with whatever option you decide to go, but these are the options, and I want you to, explore them. And with that being said, thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video. Again, our crisis line is here in red, and then we also have an office in Santa Cruz and one in Watsonville here in Santa Cruz County. Currently, due to COVID, we are working remotely, but all our services are still available for survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, or human trafficking. And it could be for children, teens, adults, the elderly, anyone who's in any type of situation like that. And then you can also check out our website for more information, which is monarchsec.org. And please follow us on our social medias that are specifically for youth. On Instagram, we are Monarch for Youth. On TikTok, it's Monarch SEC. And of course, our YouTube channel is Monarch Services. Thank you so much.